Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok. Vamos arriba. Y vamos a no hacer nada. No hacer nada.
Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out when suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing cabinet in the corner of his boss's office. Stanley had never seen this panel before and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result. In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret, and so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know. The number of his freshman dorm number in college. 1957. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
No lo sé.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the keypad was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 1957.
Pero no lo sé la combinación. ¿Cómo voy a saber que es 1957? Creo que era. No sé, no lo sé.
1957.
1, 9, 9, 9. Dije 9, 1, 9, 5, 9. No, no es. Yo no sé la contraseña. A ver, yo me voy. Yo me quiero ir. No sé la contraseña. Señor. Hola. Estoy apretando un número. No sale. Por esto 0. Tres, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 8, 8, 8, 8. Por ahí es la escena, la pantalla del fondo. 8, 8, 8, 8. Eso sería una contraseña de mierda, pero no. No sé, señor, no sé. No sé la contraseña, no sé. Narrador, abrime la puerta. Yo quiero irme a la mierda. No sé cuál es. ¿En serio? ¿Te quedas acá hasta que pones la contraseña correcta? Bueno. Ya está.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad,
Ya fue.
Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing.
Cállate.
Stanley ventured forth into the newly
Cállate. Vos me
opened
diste la
passage
contraseña,
as
no
he
seas...
grew deeper into the bowels of the building. Stanley had no idea where he was or what this place held, and just as he began to think he might not discover a thing, he emerged into a long room to find rows and rows of monitors, screens with a number above it. Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building, his co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall. But why a setup so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance, or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation.
Un botón.
An enormous control panel,
¿No?
Stanley discovered,
Ah, sí, espera.
but not one that controlled simple machinery.
Ahí va.
Buttons were labeled with emotions,
Ay,
happy,
yo los voy a apretar
sad.
todos.
Levers and knobs
Para
controlled
apretarlos
actions,
todos, Sal.
walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine,
Vamos a
but
apretarlos
of a
todos.
human being. And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? that a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark.
No se puede hacer nada.
Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running,
Sí,
Stanley moved to the ladder in
primero
the back
voy a
of the
intentar
room
una cosa.
and began to climb towards the
Quiero
rafters.
apretar estos dos botones que están bastante cerca a ver si pasa algo cuando aprieto los dos a la vez. ¿Este quedó prendido? No. No, ninguno quedó prendido. No, nada. No pasa nada cuando aprieto estos botones. Qué aburrido. Bueno, vamos arriba. A ver si pasa algo cuando tire de esa manivela verde o si encuentro alguna otra cosa.
The higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
No hay nada que pueda hacer acá más que trepar. ¿Esto? No, no se va a abrir hasta que termine con esto. Engage. Ahí está. Bueno.
Oh, Stanley,
Oh,
you didn't just activate the controls, did you?
sí,
After
creo.
it kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted? Control?
Uy, me di control.
Stanley. Stanley. I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were meant to let it go, turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that.
Sí, yo.
I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you have. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system.
Oh,
In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Oh, let's make it say, 2 minutes.
what? Oh,
Now, this is making it
Oh,
a little
no,
more
no.
fun, isn't it, Stanley?
es
Go
divertido.
ahead. Play with those controls all you like. The real controls are where I'm sitting. Did you really ever believe you held any power? Did you not think I knew what I was doing? When I erased your co-workers and turned off the machine, I was offering you freedom, an escape. I didn't have to do that. I've run this story many times, and I don't always
No.
set you free. Sometimes you just sit there, day after day after day, doing your job forever, and then dying alone. But when I actually give you the freedom to control your own actions, it's not enough. I let you go, and you trapped yourself just the same. You just weren't made to handle this sort of responsibility, I'm afraid. But you know what you were made for? Pushing buttons.
Estoy apretando botones y no me estoy
Get it
salvando.
Oh, I'm enjoying this. Tell you what, I'll throw some extra time on the clock just because I'm having so much.
No me hagas esto.
There we
No me
go.
hagas esto.
You see, I want to watch you for every long second you try to puzzle this out. After all, it should make sense, right?
No, no
The
tiene sentido.
timer, the nuclear detonation, the mysterious facility, it's all here. This is a video game.
¿Esto es un qué?
Except for one thing there, hero. You've got no weapon, no vehicle. You don't even know where you're going.
Ey,
When you saw that timer, you just instinctively started trying to find an exit, didn't you?
sí.
In fact, I bet you're still looking for a way out.
Sí.
I bet you're clicking on everything in this room, trying to open doors or vents or something and solve the puzzle. As though this game has a solution, as though it can be won. That timer is not a catalyst to keep things moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. It's the moment when the hero realizes that despite his best efforts, he is powerless to his environment.
No, no, no.
Then he lets go.
No.
He surrenders. and he dies.
No voy a morir sin rendirme.
30 seconds, Stanley. 30 seconds until a boom, and then nothing.
Ey, al menos
No
lo
ending
intenté.
to this story, just you dying.
Ey, ese es su
I
final.
suppose you could have gotten an actual ending if you played along, but that just wouldn't have been your style, would it?
No.
Instead, you'll perish knowing that the only choice you made here was to turn on that machine and to start this timer. But you won't be alone, because I'm not going anywhere.
¿Qué?
I'll be here to watch every second of your inevitable life from the time we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
Fin. Esos son todos los finales. Si no tiene más finales, voy a estar feliz igual. Porque es bastante entretenido. Entonces vamos para arriba. Que no llegué a ver todo porque me quedé trabado como un estúpido en el segundo cosa de metal. Esta vez no voy a agarrar nada de metal. A menos que sea la última alternativa. Bien, ahí vamos. Te juro que esto no lo había visto. Estaba tan oscuro que no lo había visto. Adentro.
It almost perplexed Stanley that he had actually gone and stepped into this metal trap. After all, it should have been no surprise that this thing would lead him to his death. But he thought to himself, this is simply the price to pay for ruining a perfectly good story. So he resigned and willingly accepted his fate, the inevitable end toward which he had spent so long stumbling. Farewell, Stanley.
Qué hijo de puta. Y así Stanley murió. ¿O no?
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator as he sent his subject down the conveyor belt and into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Al menos no sufrí. Abajo. ¿Puedo metérmelo? No, no. Mejor no. Espera. No, guardar. Ahí está. No, no puedo meterme. No puedo agacharme. Puedo empujarlo. Sí, eso no sirve de nada. Bien, sigamos caminando. A ver a dónde me lleva.
It's a shame, then, that for all his work, it was such a meaningless victory for the narrator. Did he really think he would accomplish anything by murdering this disposable vessel?
Pregúntaselo a él, no me digas a mí. Yo sigo vivo igual, yo estoy acá caminando.
Every possible choice Stanley could make had been designed for him long before he ever set foot here. The narrator wanted to kill him. Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start.
Él no apretó Start, yo fui. Oh, espera. ¿Me tiro? ¿Me tiro? Me tiro. Oh, no. Ah, sí.
There's no salvation for either of these two, I'm afraid. The narrator had as little power over Stanley as Stanley did over the paths that he walked.
¿Eh? ¿Qué significa?
But listen to me. The story is not over.
¿Eh?
You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now, and it'll be your only true choice.
Ok.
Whatever you do,
No.
choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Time.
Bueno, ya morí. Ya morí.